Hi, everybody. My name is John Tavolieri. I lead the Global Product Technology and Operations Group for the Nielsen Company. And I'd like to begin by saying thank you to all the folks at San Telmo for giving us an opportunity to share a few thoughts around how we at Nielsen have responded to the COVID crisis and what we're learning. I want to begin also by hoping everyone is in good health. I hope all of you and your loved ones are navigating the crisis as well as possible. And if there are folks within your family or your organizations who are ill, I wish them a speedy recovery. Our company, like yours, is facing the everyday challenge that COVID brings. And what we're going to share with you today, myself and then a few of my associates in subsequent videos, are going to talk a little bit about how we are responding as a company, and also, even more importantly, what we're learning about consumer purchase behavior. I'm going to begin first by talking about how we are responding. And in my role, I lead roughly 25,000 people around the 100 countries in which we operate. A lot of my job is to focus on securing business continuity and the health and safety of our associates around the world. So let me just share with you the framework that we've used to prepare and respond. And the approach that we're taking is a model or a framework which is about surrounding and supporting our end markets. Our leadership team is in various locations around the world. I am in Florida, our CEO is in Chicago, our head of commercial is in Europe, in Geneva, and we understand that the most important people in the front line of this war against the virus are the associates in the end markets in our country, or in our various countries. And so we are focused on surrounding and supporting them with expert support from our data scientists, our operational leaders, our commercial leaders, our legal team, our HR team, our communications team. But ultimately, our job is to go and provide that framework, make some critical, call it company-wide decisions, but then push the framework to the end markets, those folks in those 100 countries around the world who are navigating the crisis day in and day out. We also found at the beginning of the crisis, it was very important to have an organizing principle, and we picked three. First, it's about employee health and safety. That is the most important thing as we navigate the crisis. Secondarily, it's about being a good corporate citizen. That means that the decisions that we make will always follow the law, and we will do our best to ensure the actions that we take do not contribute to any further community spread that may be happening in the markets in which we operate. Thirdly, it's about business continuity and data integrity. We play a very important role in the FMCG ecosystem by providing measurement data and analytic data around how consumers shop. And it's very important for our clients to have that visibility across the developed world, the emerging markets, so that they can understand what's changing in the marketplace because of COVID-19. The other key learning I would give you is communication is critical. The more the communication, the simpler the communication, the better. Especially today when there are many different forms of communication, you can even use the phrase fake news. It's critically important that an organization of our size, roughly 40,000 people, and the number of countries in which we operate, nearly 100, that communication is cascaded clearly and the right communication is happening at the right level. Again, you can't control all communication from the center, but you can provide that framework so the local managing directors who are dealing with the crisis at different phases, such as China versus countries that are experiencing the crisis later, like the United States, are getting the proper support depending on the phase of the crisis that they are in. Secondarily, we've discovered the most important part of our ability to work from home, and we now have over 95% of our associates working from home, is the enterprise IT infrastructure. they've done a tremendous job allowing our associates to be able to do their jobs from home, much like I am, as opposed to having to go into the office. That means ensuring we expand our bandwidth. We increase our ability to communicate via video. We use new technology tools like Slack to be able to go and communicate more effectively and more efficiently, so folks are not always focused on just using email. So again, communication is key, and then the tools that will help people communicate more effectively are also provided. We've gone to the extent where many of our operations teammates who generally work in the office and don't have a laptop but have a desktop computer, we made sure that we shipped those computers to their homes so that they could do their work from home, as opposed to running the risk of getting ill when they go into the office. So I would say the other key thing is finding a path to getting into a rhythm. Most of the work and the effort needs to get done in advance of the crisis so that you can prepare and you get into a natural rhythm of how you will respond depending on what stage that crisis is. It could be the early stages of a few people being impacted well in advance of a whole country perhaps going into lockdown, all the way through to the extremes that we've seen, unfortunately, in markets in Western Europe, China, now in North America and Latin America, and frankly around the globe, while different economies and countries are going into lockdown. The earlier you can get ready, the better. I would also say one of the key learnings and a big recommendation that we would make is to not just have your senior leadership team or your crisis response team be focused on the crisis itself and responding day to day. You should take a subgroup and get that group starting immediately to work on how do we reopen. I think you hear this today with various governments around the world. They need to also make a decision. When do they reopen? Much like they've done in China, and they're starting to do in some other parts of some of the European countries that have been affected. I don't want to say it's easy, but sometimes it's almost easier to decide to close a market than it is when do you reopen? And how do you reopen? What are going to be the new rules of engagement? Are you going to take temperature of any associate coming into an office? Are you going to make sure that there are masks available for everybody? The Nielsen organization has a large field force of roughly 15,000 people around the world who will do manual store visits. How do we ensure that they are protected? So I would strongly encourage, the other key learning is to make sure you spend adequate amount of time early on determining how you will reopen. So again, from a operational perspective, have your frameworks laid out very early. Again, ours are employee health and safety, being a good corporate citizen, and the third one, business continuity and data integrity, ensuring that the products that we deliver to our clients still meet the product promise that we've committed to, and in some cases they need to evolve if there is an impact on the flow of information that's coming in to create those products. What you're now going to see are 3 separate videos from the managing directors, the CEOs of our Greater China business, our Italian business, and our Spanish and Portuguese businesses. These 3 Nielsen leaders are living the battle day in and day out, right at the front of that battlefield with our associates, with our customers. They are all at different phases of the crisis. China, hopefully now in a recovery phase. Italy and Iberia still facing some of the challenges, but hopefully starting to see some positive signals of reduced numbers of people getting sick or unfortunately passing away. So you will see 3 different perspectives based on where those countries are. And what you will hear from them is the learning framework that we've seen that consumers will go through. 6 phases. First, a proactive, health-minded buying phase. As people start to hear about the COVID-19 virus spreading around the world, they start to get proactive in terms of some of the products that they're buying to go and fill their pantry with. Secondarily, reactive health management. This is after, let's say, the virus has started to pick up within a local community. Folks are starting to pivot some of the money that they spend away from less essential products to much more essential, getting ready for if and when folks within their family or home start to get sick. Thirdly, pantry preparation. This is when consumers start to see that there is going to be a moment when potentially they will be forced to work from home or their communities will go to lockdown. And this is when you start to see people stocking up on certain shelf-stable products. You've seen what's happened with bathroom tissue in some markets, especially in the United States, where you could also say there's a bit of panic buying. That's the third phase. Fourth is quarantine living. That is what we face today here where I live in Florida, where you're not allowed to leave the house unless you're going shopping for food or drugs. We choose to not even do that. We will do now all of our shopping online and have the benefits of online shopping to be able to go and get us the products that we need for our family. Fifth, restricted living. This is when you are right at the true lockdown moment, not knowing how long it's going to go. And this is where at-home shopping online plays the biggest role. And then lastly, we will pivot to a new normal. We don't yet know what that new normal is going to look like. I would say to you, the first market that will teach us that will be China, and Justin will talk a little bit about that. And I would look back on my lifetime, and unfortunately, the last, let's say, grave moment such as this that I remember is 9/11, and how the world really changed after 9/11 in terms of how you travel, in terms of the security checks that one would go through. Something similar is going to happen here. We don't yet know what that's going to be, but there will be a new normal. And our job at Nielsen is to leverage the millions of transactions, the thousands of stores that we gather data from, the hundreds of thousands of panelists to give our clients a view into what's happening in terms of how they shop and how they live. Hopefully you find this insightful. Thank you again for your time and stay healthy. And we hope to see you in person later this year at San Telmo. Cheers.